It's Friday, August 28th. I'm Lucy Steiner.
And I'm Sam Cedar. Which of these stories will you be talking about today?
Protests and vigils continue in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and beyond, calling for justice for Jacob Blake, shot 7 times in the back by police. And new details have emerged about a teenage vigilante shooter who killed 2 and injured a 3rd at one of those protests this week. Meanwhile, Donald Trump speaks on the final night of the Republican National Convention. And a new report details how much money his companies have skimmed from the U.S. government during his time in office. And lastly, the Christchurch mosque killer receives New Zealand's maximum criminal penalty. Hear how a victim's son delivered a righteous speech before the sentencing.
You are listening to Majority FM's AM Quickie, and these are the stories you need to know.
Our apologies. Yesterday we said Jacob Blake, the man shot 7 times in the back by police in Kenosha, Wisconsin, had been killed. He is in fact alive, though paralyzed from the waist down. Yesterday, the Chicago Sun-Times reported that Blake was handcuffed to his hospital bed when his father came to visit. It's unclear what charges he faces because police haven't said. Blake's father, also named Jacob, is scheduled to speak at the March on Washington today. Meanwhile, more details have emerged about Kyle Rittenhouse, the 17-year-old shooter who attacked a crowd of protesters in Kenosha before fleeing to his home across the state line in Antioch, Illinois. Students at a high school Rittenhouse attended told Vice News he was shy, but also aggressive, and some had pegged him for a future school shooter. He was active in a police cadet training program and reportedly idolized the police. In addition to making common cause with a local right-wing militia, he was a big fan of Donald Trump. BuzzFeed News found a photo of Rittenhouse in the front row of a Trump rally in Des Moines, Iowa on late January. Since his shooting, which killed 2 and wounded another, much of the Republican right has rallied around Rittenhouse, casting him as a hero who fought to protect property from rioters. The survivors of his victims have disputed that characterization in the strongest terms. Those shot dead were victims Anthony Huber, age 26, of Silver Lake, and Joseph Jojo Rosenbaum, 36, of Kenosha. Gage Grosskreutz, 26, of West Allis, was shot in the arm and is expected to recover, according to the Sun-Times. Per the Chicago Tribune, Huber had confronted Rittenhouse, who was carrying an assault rifle, using only his skateboard. A GoFundMe created by his family said, quote, "He was fighting for a cause and he wasn't a rioter. He was a protester and a defender," unquote. Law enforcement and the National Guard were out in an attempt to enforce curfews again last night, not only in Kenosha, but also in Minneapolis, where protests are ongoing. Finally, police in Kenosha named the officer who shot Jacob Blake 7 times in the back while holding his shirt as Rustin Shesky, a 7-year veteran of the department. The local district attorney will decide whether to file charges against the officer next month after the state Justice Department releases its report. Yesterday, the New York Times reported that for the second time in 30 days, the Trump campaign pulled all its broadcast ads from circulation. The campaign has no new ads scheduled until September 8th. That's 2 weeks with no ads on television and fewer than 70 days until the election. Something isn't quite clicking for the Republicans. On night 3 of the Republican National Convention, headliner Mike Pence brought the lowest ratings yet. And last night, Donald Trump himself delivered the convention keynote from the White House. According to prepared remarks obtained by the Associated Press, Trump cast his super centrist opponent, Joe Biden, as some kind of flaming radical. And he blamed the violence in Kenosha and elsewhere on the local Democratic leadership. Separately, the Washington Post reported that the Trump organization has billed taxpayers for at least $900,000 since he took office, much of it through booking fees at Trump hotels and resorts. The Secret Service is obliged to follow Trump wherever he goes, which means when he stays at a Trump hotel, agents must book rooms there as well. Trump has now visited his own hotels 271 times as president. Sometimes the charges to the Secret Service seem not only exorbitant, but straight up bogus, such as a bill for furniture removal from a room totaling $1,300 plus tax. In response to the Post reporting, a White House spokesman warned they were building up a very large dossier on the reporter David Fahrenthold. We're sure he's quaking in his shoes.
Hey, Majority.fm's AM Quickie is fueled by JustCoffee.coop. Just Coffee is a worker-owned coffee roaster based in Madison, Wisconsin that has sponsored the Majority Report for nearly a decade. Check out their collection of fair trade roasts, including our own Majority Report blend, and regardless of what you order, receive 10% off of your order when you use the code MAJORITY at checkout. All shipping, of course, is free. That's coupon code MAJORITY at justcoffee.coop.
A judge in New Zealand yesterday sentenced Brenton Harrison Tarrant, who killed 51 people in 2 mosques in a terrorist attack last year, to life in prison without the possibility of parole. It was the maximum sentence allowed by law, and the first time it has been imposed in the country's history. According to the Associated Press, Judge Cameron Mander said Tarrant's crimes were so wicked that a lifetime in jail could not begin to atone for them. Tarrant, 29, is an Australian citizen. The son of a shooting victim also had words for the killer. In an appeal to the judge shared widely on social media, Nabi endorsed the sentence of life without parole. He called the killer a maggot who had inadvertently made his father a martyr. Nabi said in part, quote, "You shot at defenseless people who were not aware what was going on until they knew it was too late. Your actions were gutless. You deserve to be buried in a landfill. This world was created with color. A peasant like you will never change the human race. Your wish is to make the world a racist cult of one color, but you will never succeed. I would like to say that my 71-year-old dad would have broke you in half if you challenged him to a fight, but you are weak, a sheep with a wolf's jacket on for only 10 minutes of your whole life. I am strong and you made me even stronger," unquote. And with that, Nabi flipped the killer off with both hands.
And now for some quicker quickies.
Quicker Quickie.
Hurricane Laura flattened buildings and trees along the Gulf Coast and kicked off a large chemical fire over Lake Charles, Louisiana, when it made landfall. Laura continues to move north towards Arkansas and has been downgraded to a tropical storm. 4 deaths were reported in Louisiana and none in Texas. The verdict from Louisiana Governor John Bell Edwards: it could have been a lot worse. Indeed, the storm also knocked over a Confederate statue in Lake Charles only days after parish officials voted to leave it standing. A new analysis in the British Medical Journal found that 6 feet of social distancing may be insufficient protection against the coronavirus, especially in poorly ventilated indoor settings. Public health experts quoted by the Washington Post say 6 feet of social distance should be regarded as a starting point, not a strict guidance. The only thing close to a silver bullet, researchers say, is a distanced gathering outdoors where everyone is wearing well-fitted masks. Got that? Mask up and be mindful of how the air is flowing. Russia's Vladimir Putin said he was willing to provide military or police assistance to help the ruler of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, remain in power. Lukashenko, recently seen carrying an assault rifle after deboarding a helicopter, has ordered mass arrests of protesters after elections the European Union refuses to recognize as legitimate. Poland's Prime Minister, Mateusz Morawiecki, urged Russia to cease any plans for military intervention in Belarus, calling it a hostile act and a violation of international law. The British artist Banksy has used some of his wealth to finance a boat that is patrolling the Mediterranean to rescue refugees lost at sea. The Guardian reports that the boat, named Louis Michel after a French feminist anarchist, rescued 89 people in distress yesterday, including 14 women and 4 children. At last report, the Louis Michel was looking for a safe port to let refugees disembark.
Quicker Quickie.
That's all for the Majority Report's AM Quickie today. We'll have more pre-recorded content for you this afternoon, as Sam and the team are still on a well-deserved break.